I don't allow my team, and they know this, it's second nature at this point. We don't make one-off decisions that have impacts across the function from one executive to me. That's just not how we do it. So if there's a decision that has to be made as a group that will impact more than one function, it is required that that conversation happens with all the right people and I can hear all sides of the debate. And we will debate it. And sometimes those debates get a little bit heated. What I love about them is they're open, they're honest, they're direct, they're transparent, and at the end of it, we're all aligned. There's nothing worse than making a decision with one individual on your team that has a disagreeing peer, and then the two of you go off to execute it, and me as the CEO, I think it's going to go work great, and there's still misalignment in the organization. That cannot happen.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the CEO Podcast. My name is Mario, together with my partner and co-host, Professor Robert Hargrove. We are from Masterful Coaching, and today's guest is Dave Barbuto, and current CEO of uBreak, iFix by Asurion. Did I say everything correctly?
Yeah, everything was perfect. Thanks, Mario. Thanks for the introduction.
And for those who don't know, uBreak, iFix is?
We are a repair organization, a retail repair organization with almost 700 locations around the country. We'll fix anything with a power button. That's our mantra. And we hire amazing people to solve people's technology problems. And we do that quickly and conveniently and with a smile on our face. And there's no problem we can't solve. We've fixed all kinds of different things, and we could talk about some of the variety. It'll probably shock you.
I'm a customer of uBreak, iFix, and I've had a great experience. I went in there once for my cell phone screen was cracked. I went in there another time. I had to replace a computer keyboard. And there was a third example, but I was extremely impressed with the caliber of people working at uBreak, iFix. They were like, you were dealing with someone with a master's degree in engineering who was also very customer oriented, very professional, who care.
Yeah, it's a unique skill set. You got to find people that have the technical aptitude to do those sorts of repairs, the mechanical sort of mindset, but also great customer experience mindset. And we find people that are really curious about solving tough problems, and they love sharing knowledge with customers, and that just goes a long way in the experience.
I had an idea for your advertising campaign. Are you desperate?
Okay.
You got to hold me up a broken cell phone. uBreak, iFix.
Yeah, that's not bad.
When I go to uBreak, iFix, I am desperate. I need help.
Yes. Yeah, we know speed matters when people are without their devices, whether it's a laptop or a tablet or a gaming console or certainly a phone. And so we pride ourselves, especially on phones.
I am now jealous of you guys because my laptop broke, I think, like 3 weeks ago. And I take it to the repair office and it says, it is going to be 2 weeks. And I'm like, dude, 2 weeks? Like I need it yesterday. So I bought a new laptop. And then it took 2 weeks to fix my old one. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Come on,
I
people.
think what you're really selling there is peace of mind.
Yes.
When you walk in the door
Absolutely.
desperate, you walk out with peace of mind.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We talk about that for sure.
Tell us about your background, your career journey that led up to your current job. I understand you had quite a few interesting roles and very diverse.
Yeah, so after I graduated college, I went into the Army. I was commissioned as an infantry officer in the U.S. Army. Did that for about 7 years, spent about half that time deployed.
Where were you deployed?
Yeah, I spent time in Iraq, El Salvador, Jordan, and Thailand, just over the course of that 7 years. And a great experience, taught me a lot about leadership, taught me a lot about how to solve problems. When I got out of the military, I went to work for CSX, the railroad, ran an operations team for about a year. And then moved to Nashville and joined Asurion. And since I've been at Asurion, I've had 7 or 8 different functional roles across our supply chain, product management, operations teams, technology teams. And in 2019, Asurion bought uBreak, iFix. And in 2021, the founders of uBreak, iFix decided it was time to step away. And the Asurion leadership looked to me and asked me if I would become the CEO. And so I've done that now for about 3.5 years. Toughest job I've ever had, but certainly very rewarding.
What's the scale of uBreak, iFix? How big is that? It's not just a shop down the street.
We have almost 700 stores around the country in the United States, and we have 400 remote tech vans. So we can not only fix a device for you at our stores, but if you need us to come to your house or you live too far away from a store, we can dispatch one of our vans to come to you, fix your phone, fix your laptop, fix your tablet, whatever you need. So it's a broad network. We cover about 90% of the US population with either a van or a store, and we make ourselves accessible as possible. We know it's important.
And how did all these diverse jobs that you had contribute to your ability to be a CEO?
You know, the CEO job is new to me when I got into it, but one of the things that I think helped and I encourage people to think about in their careers is getting a broad base of expertise. And I think the CEO role is a job where you're a general manager of a large function. You're ultimately the final decision maker, but you also have to set the strategy and guide the organization. And having experience in product and technology and operations, I think is what helps you become really well-rounded. And it also helps me when I'm talking to my employees that do those specific functions. I can engage with all of them sort of in their language and in their expertise because I've spent time in those roles in the past. It'd be different if I was, you know, more of a specialized person before this role and only had sort of, you know, more, call it myopic view of business. So I think this has been really helpful for me personally. I can see a lot of what the organization's trying to accomplish because I've been in those roles before.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. That point you made about the language, a friend of mine who was one of the greatest salesmen ever, he said, you can learn any business in an hour if you understand the vocabulary. So I guess you understand the vocabulary of all these different functions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know for a fact that there are a lot of stores, I would say across big cities and small cities, that fix electronic devices, mobile phones. So what would be your advice to other CEOs how to not be like just another Me Too competitor? How to kind of stand out in a CEO, let's say, sameness?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most unique parts about our business and why we're the market leader in the United States is we have really strong relationships with some of the largest OEMs in the country and in the world. So we have a direct relationship with several OEMs that provide us parts, training, information, access to repairs, et cetera. They send their warranty repairs to us as well. So that is a significant difference for us. We have those partnerships. We're well respected in the industry as people that can do these jobs and do them right. But I think the key for us and the differentiator is always the people. We have the most amazing technicians and leaders that you can possibly imagine in our stores. And that allows us to deliver a really consistent experience. And we share the knowledge across those 700 stores in lots of different ways. We have a system and a network and a knowledge base that we can share across so that all of our technicians can get smarter about repairs they haven't seen, which is really, it's a bit of a secret sauce.
Collective intelligence, right?
That's right. Yep. And we hire people that are curious to solve problems. I mentioned earlier that we don't just fix phones and laptops and game consoles. We've had elliptical machines brought into our lobby. We had a screen off of a BMW, a display screen off of BMW brought in. I was in Texas a couple months ago. We had a hunting scope, a multiple thousands of dollar hunting scope that had, digital reticles and all sorts of things in it. And the hunter didn't know how to get it fixed. It wasn't working. And so they brought it to us, and we had guys that figured it out. They spent a couple hours. They Googled it. They looked for the specs on it. They ordered the right parts, and they fixed this high-powered scope for an individual. And so, we pride ourselves in solving those complex technology problems, and sharing the knowledge is a big part of it, hiring the right people.
And back to your role as CEO, what do you love about your job, and what is it, if anything, that frustrates you about it?
What I love about it is when the team has success, it just feels great. We work on hard problems every day, not just at the store level, but in our strategy and how to compete and win. And when we have wins, it's just the most elating experience when you see people on the team having success, accomplishing big things, driving results that we all want. Like that it wakes me up every day, gets me motivated. And ultimately, I share this with my team, for me, when I was in the military, my charter and what I felt I was responsible for was taking care of my soldiers and making sure they were all prepared for combat and that they came home safely. You can't find the same sort of touchstone in business. So a long time ago.
The camaraderie.
That, and also like just for me, my personal why was that in the military. And when I got into business, I realized I'm never going to have that same why because we're not in combat, we're not training for that. And so I shifted my desire and my sort of why to be more about the individuals on my team. And my motivation for work is to come in every day and provide people opportunities to grow professionally and personally. And if they do that, then they can have the life outside of work that they want. And so that's what motivates me. And when I see people having success and getting more opportunities to develop and grow, that just motivates me pretty significantly. So what I dislike about the job,
Oh, I said frustrates you.
it can be frustrating. Yeah, I'll use your word, frustrating. It's, you hear about people that are in jobs like this, and I'll use a loose analogy, but you hear, when former presidents always talk about the fact that they feel lonely. Like that they ultimately get a lot of information, they have to make decisions, but at the end of the day, they're the last person that has to say, left or right, yes or no, up or down. And I didn't expect to feel that way, and I didn't fully understand that concept, and I'm sure other CEOs feel that too. But there is an element of loneliness, because at the end of the day, there's not a co-CEO. Now you have a team and you trust your team and they bring you good information, but there are a lot of decisions that you are making solely on your own, and you have to decide, you have to have built good judgment over time, and you got to have the right people in place to give you the right facts so that you can make that decision and feel confident in it. It's not a bad thing, but it just was something I didn't expect.
Yeah, you're not necessarily free to express your worries or concerns with anyone.
Yeah.
That could undermine the morale of the place.
That's
Do
right.
you, my primary focus is on, I wrote a book called Masterful Coaching. I've coached many CEOs, but I think one of the most important roles that I've played is just someone to talk to in the odd moment about something that's going down. Right now, one of my CEO friends is trying to do it like a $12 billion deal, and there's 5 or 6 other major companies. He's under stress. He's under pressure. He's got to look like he's got his act together. And he might call me up at 6:30 in the morning and just unload or open his kimono. Do you have anybody like that in your life?
Yeah, several. I mean, there's folks, some of the senior leaders at Assurian that I certainly engage with regularly. My boss and the CEO of Assurian, I have regular touch points with them, and I'll bounce ideas or decisions off them for sure. I also have a network of friends and former military officers and some that are still in the military that they don't have all the context, but sometimes that's actually really helpful because they can see things much more clearly without all of the minutia and really focus in on the key decision. So I lean on them heavily. And then also my parents. I still talk to my parents about work not on all occasions.
Oh.
They like to talk about other things, but every now and then, if I'm struggling with a tough decision, my dad was a former military officer and my mom an educator, and so I'll bounce things off them as well.
That's funny because sometimes in my role of coaching CEOs and top teams, I often feel like their mother. Their father,
Sure.
they love to
I'm
call
sure.
me up and show me their report card. Look at what I accomplished here.
That's
Or,
yeah.
My mom never
what can I
talked with
do?
me about my work. Let me ask you this. This is kind of a, it's been a buzzword for the past few years. Not sure how it affects your job, but let's say the rise of artificial intelligence, well, specifically the generative AI and large language models and everything that's it's coming in. I do think, I'm not an expert, but I do think we are fairly away for AGI, for artificial general intelligence, right? But is it affected you guys in any way? Have you embraced it? Have you kind of incorporated it? And what is your role as a CEO plays into kind of pushing and incorporating AI through the org?
I think for us, there's ways where it's helpful. So we're using it, and Assurian in particular, using it to make the customer experience when people are calling or needing help, whether they're filing a claim with Assurian or they need a repair from uBreak, iFix, using AI to make sure that we know as much as we possibly can about the situation, offer the best guidance through our contact center associates, That's certainly a big part of it. That leads to an experience in a store. What I love about the work we do is it is hands-on, face-to-face work. We don't have robots fixing devices. We don't have robots talking to customers. We don't have chat bots sitting on a counter that you could talk to instead of an individual. And as much as AI, I think, will change the world and is already starting to, at the end of the day for our business, we got to have someone turning screws that knows a lot about how to take care of that device. And the customers really want to talk to that person. You know, technology is confusing for a lot of people. They want it to just work. And so our job is to make it work. But what we find is they also want to learn about it and they want to understand why it didn't work and what you did to fix it. And so that face-to-face interaction is critical for us. We do a really good job of communicating to customers along the way, how it's going, how long it'll take, what the problem was, and then potentially things they need to avoid in the future. My daughter, I don't know if it feels like it happened a lot more since I've been in this job, but my daughter's phone gets broken a whole lot. And I talk to my daughter pretty regularly about, you know, your phone is not made to be thrown or tossed or, you know, et cetera, but also you shouldn't have it in the bathroom with the steam billowing out of your shower and letting, you know, moisture get into the device all the time. And so, you know, I have a little bit of education I have to do in my own house, but I think customers appreciate that. And I think that that's where the face-to-face interaction
Can you talk to my 15-year-old son about this?
My son always takes his phone into the shower. I don't know what he's doing in there with it.
Why?
What are we
doing?
Back to the business model. I use a Silicon Valley type word. What do you see as the TAM, the total addressable market for a company like uBreak, iFix? And how do you grow your business in such a competitive environment? Like in my town, there's probably 3 or 4 phone fixer places. So how do you grow your business faster in this type of environment?
Yeah, we think the total addressable market annually is about 50 million devices that are broken between laptops, phones, tablets, gaming consoles, and anything with a power button.
Did you say 50 million?
So it's pretty large. 50 million. Yep. So it's a large opportunity. We're the largest player by market share in the space. We do more repairs than any other retail repair organization. I think for us, the way we grow and our strategy has been continue to make every experience really, really wonderful because customers in their homes and in their families have a lot of technology. And we also share with them that we can fix more than phones. Phones were sort of the entry point of uBreak, iFix into the market and most of the repair shops. But we have progressed well beyond that. I gave you examples of like other technology we fixed, but gaming consoles is a really interesting one. Gaming consoles are becoming more and more popular. And so are computers for gaming. And we can fix both of those. And the performance of those machines changes the outcome in the game. If the device is clean, if it's operating well, if the power source is correctly hooked up and has enough energy to do the things you need to, and if you have the right megahertz for your screen and your system, so there's a lot of consultative things we can do there that help people get back into their gaming career quickly. Now, I'm not a gamer, but we have a lot of technicians that are. They understand the importance of that, the urgency that a customer would have on it. But customers probably don't think of us just as naturally about fixing game consoles. So part of our job in growth is making sure that we talk to customers about all the things that we fix. The other is we have a lot of subscription services that we're able to offer as part of our relationship with Assurion, which allows customers to protect lots of different devices in their home and bring them to us to repair them. And so think of it as a monthly subscription service where we're repairing any sort of technology in your home short of appliances. So if it has a power button and it breaks, we can cover it, we can protect it, we can fix it, we can replace it if you need to. And that's been a real huge opportunity for us. We offer that in our stores. We sell quite a lot of them. We're proud of it. And it's an unbelievable experience for customers because it gets their technology back up and running and they don't have to worry about where do I go. The other part of that is the ecosystem in a house is very rarely all Apple or all Samsung or all Google. It's a hodgepodge. And so you can't go to any one manufacturer and go cover all the stuff in my house because they don't. They only cover their stuff and they're not going to fix or replace or repair something from another OEM. So in these services, we cover it all. We don't care what OEM you work for, you bought your thermostat from. We don't care which tablet you have or which laptop. They can all be different. We'll cover them and we'll support that for you.
So let me ask you one thing regarding specifically the CEO role. You kind of became the CEO of uBreak, iFix During the pandemic, I see it was kind of, April, May 2021. So if you look back on your journey, which is now 3.5 years as a CEO, and this was your first CEO engagement, what would you say, let's say, your 3 most important responsibilities as tasks are personally? And then can you extrapolate that? What would you advise other CEOs? Okay, these are the areas where you absolutely need to focus.
Yeah, I mean, for us, because we're a retail organization, our footprint was a super important part of it. Are we in the right place? Do we have enough stores? Do we have the right stores? And as the demographics of the United States have changed significantly over the last, call it 7 or 8 years, there's an exodus from certain parts of the country and they're moving to other parts. Are we in the right places to meet customers where their need is? That was a significant opportunity and challenge that we focused on. The second was making sure that we understand how to optimize search results such that we are the dominant option for customers when they search for repair. And so understanding search engine optimization, how Google works, how you make sure that your stores are represented the right way was critical, and we've learned a lot about that. We have unbelievable people on our team that spend every day on it. That was a significant one. And then the third one was stick to the core. Like, we're good at very specific things and we need to accentuate those things. And the fastest path to new business is to accentuate the things that we do really well. It's not to ignore opportunities that we think could get us a little bit away from our core competencies, but they could be adjacent. But importantly, what are the capabilities that we have, and then how do we offer new services and repair types and things that capitalize on what our technicians are amazing at? So that for me was the top 3. Those are the things I spent a lot of time on. I wouldn't say I did them perfectly. I've learned a lot about them. But if I was advising a new one, it would be do the assessment on what are those top 3 things for your business, prioritize them, make them a focus area, and then make sure you have the right people in the spots working on those specific issues.
Well, as a customer of uBreak iFix, I wasn't aware that uBreak iFix fixed other things besides phones. I just thought when I brought my computer in, because I had to replace the keyboard because I write every day, that the guy in there was smart enough to be able to figure it out. But I would imagine that your brand should represent something more than phones. There was I'll tell you a little quick story. There was a famous advertising guy. Actually, he's known as one of the founders of modern advertising. His name is Claude Hopkins. He was hired by the Schlitz Beer Company in Milwaukee. And he wanted to find out a unique differentiator for this company. And he asked them all kinds of questions about what they did. And one of the things he discovered in visiting the plant was that they steam cleaned every bottle. And when he found out that they steam cleaned every bottle, he thought that was fantastic. And he put it in all their ads. But the people from Schlitz said to him, but everybody does that. He says, yes, but if you don't tell them, they don't know. So that's what I was thinking of when you were speaking about growing your business. Yeah. You may fix other things besides phones, but if you don't tell them, they won't know. Right. So what are you doing to reposition your brand or position your brand in a broader way without losing focus on your core?
Yeah, for sure. On the main sort of simple avenues that you'd expect, our website details that we cover a lot more than phones. Search engine optimization is another area. We pay for search ads and we have focused on non-mobile. We consider anything not a laptop or a tablet non-mobile. So we focused a lot there to grow our SEO rankings on non-mobile because we think that's an important area, make sure people are visible. And then the selling of the subscription service gives us a really great opportunity to talk to customers about all the things we connect. About 25 to 30% of our customers come back within the first 12 months of a repair with another device. And so if we can continue to explain to them, hey, look, we can fix more things, and part of the way we do that is through the subscription service, it opens up the door to all the broad array of technologies that are in people's homes. And they see that and they understand it. And so we start to get, phones may be the place that someone brought to us because they knew that. And when they leave, they understand we do a lot more than that because we talk about it with them directly.
Okay, good. When I go into uBreak iFix or a store like it, I go in not just someone with a problem, but as a people watcher. And as I think I've indicated, I found some of the people I met in those stores very interesting people. You know, the kind of people you'd want to go out for a beer with or ask them about their life.
Yeah.
How do you find these people?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, they have to have a great technical aptitude. They have to be able to solve complex problems and repair lots of things. If they walk in with that experience, great, but if they don't, we have an unbelievable training process. It takes us between 4 and 6 months to get someone fully proficient on the vast majority of repairs that they'll see. So there's a high degree of investment, which makes retention of those technicians paramount for us. We continue to do better and better year over year on our retention because we're making the job better. We're making sure we're taking care of them. We're giving them career paths. You can grow within a store at different levels, and you can also grow outside of your market into other roles. So that's one. But the really hard part for us has been making sure that you find people with that great technical aptitude, but also have the ability to talk to customers and make offers to them about things that we think we could do that are helpful as well. So, a great example is phones perform poorly when they're dirty, when the inside of the phone is dirty. And you've probably had your charging port cleaned out before, and there's lots of lint in it if you keep your phone in your pocket.
I usually have cracker crumbs and whatever I've been eating.
As long as you don't have gum or gummy bears or anything in there, you're okay. You want to make sure that the phone operates well. Well, customers don't understand that, but we have to be able to offer them some consultative advice about how they can make their phone perform better. That includes the battery. Batteries do fade over time. Their performance does degrade over time. And so for a small fee, we can replace that battery, make your phone better. So devices, technology are not getting cheaper. They're getting more expensive, and the capabilities of them are getting more vast, which is wonderful and amazing. The problem is it's harder and harder to afford to buy the next model. And so if we can help you stay in the model you're in or enhance the performance of that model, there's a real value there. And so, that's a great example of you have to be able to talk to a customer, ask them questions and understand their needs. A similar one is, when we talk to a customer about their phone, we'll also say to them, hey, do you have other technology in your home? And we can have a great conversation about their kids and what their kids use. And is there an opportunity for us to do something on other parts of your technology? Another big one that is really, becoming more and more evident to us that we're working on as part of our strategy is old technology. Everybody in the world probably has a box in their garage full of laptops, computers, tablets. It's a drawer or a box.
I have 5 in my basement, five on my tool shelf.
I have like four broken cell phones on a shelf in the living room.
Nobody wants to throw them away, and I would surmise it's not just about e-waste that they're worried about. They're worried about the content and the information on that device being available to somebody that got their hands on it. And so we're working through a process to help customers solve that problem and feel confident that their information is secure and destroyed and not available. That's a great example where you got to be able to have a conversation. So I'm coming full circle to your question, Robert, but finding the right people starts with the technical aptitude, but they also have to be curious and willing to engage a customer to understand the other needs they have, which include all those things I described, and then have a great conversation with that customer and see if there's something we can offer them that helps them.
Now, I'm wondering what percentage of customer visits does the guy in the uBreak iFix store ask that follow-up question?
Well, we measure the offer rate. It's self-reported, so it's a little bit hard to be, spot on accurate. We have some means to triangulate it a little bit. I would say we're in the 60 to 70% range of customers are getting a conversation that's consultative. It may not always lead to an offer directly about one of these specific things. You also have to take your clues from the customer. I'll give you a great analogy. Sometimes when you call a customer service line and you know exactly the problem you're trying to solve, and you find yourself going through press these 7 buttons, you talk to the first person, you outline the whole problem, and then they transfer you to the next group, and then you have to outline the whole problem again. And at the end of the day, you're like, I have one simple need, and it's to solve this issue. And if you could just put me in front of the right person, I could solve this issue quickly.
You're reading what happened to me 2 hours ago with my internet. This is unbelievable, Dave. Oh, sorry to interrupt.
No. So for us, when we're talking to a customer, do we read the nonverbal cues? Do we understand what their sense of urgency is? Do we meet them where they are? And if they're in a hurry and their sole purpose in life is to fix that cracked screen and get out the door as fast as possible, we need to match that. We need to make sure that we're hearing them, feeling them, and giving them exactly what they need. On other instances, when you don't get that sort of perception from a customer, it's a fair and worthwhile endeavor to talk to them more about some of their technology, build rapport, and then offer them opportunities for them. So it shouldn't be 100% because some people just aren't, that's not their state of mind when they walk in. But for a lot of customers it is because we're giving them a great service. A lot of times that conversation happens after the service. So you drop off your device, whatever it is, we fix it, and at the end, you're satisfied and you feel really great because we've taken care of the problem. We call it serve, solve, sell. We've served you, we've solved your problem. That gives us the right to offer, to sell. And so we try to put that conversation more after we've delivered on what you've asked us to deliver and you feel good about it, versus let me start with selling you on something when really you have this very specific thing you need to get solved. Customers respond really well to
So
that.
let me ask you, this is something that I noticed, and it's a tiny bit personal. You seem to know a lot what's happening, let's say, in specific stores, right? But you're also the CEO of 700 other stores. So how do you balance knowing what happens on specific locations, right? Like very operational, like deep operational level, with high-level CEO work?
You've probably heard this a million times in your podcast, but time management is the number one, catchphrase if you're in a role like this. You've got to be able to split your time across the most important things. Early on, I spent a lot of time in stores. I've probably visited over 150 of our stores, met, thousands of technicians, owners that are franchisees, corporate store employees. And so I think that was a really good foundation for me to understand what the business is, the complexity of the job, how our systems aren't working for our employees and for customers. And so that's the basis. That has slowed down, but it hasn't stopped, and I still do it. But I have a foundation to understand what the core business is running. Then it comes the time management, and I ruthlessly prioritize the things I spend my time on, and I have people that help me and make sure that I'm doing the right things at the right time. And there's a lot of times where people will want my time and I have to say no because I have to focus on something that's more important. And that's tough because you want to be available for everybody. But at the end of the day, my job requires me to make certain decisions and spend time on certain things. And that's why I have a great team. I mean, I just have unbelievable people on the team, and I don't need to be involved in every single thing, and I got to trust that they can go run. And we have a regular operational cadence where we connect on a weekly basis. And so if there are decisions or things that they want my opinion on or they want me to weigh in on, there's a regular touch point with my staff every week. It's not an enormous group of people, it's the right people. And those ideas and those questions get surfaced there and we debate them as a team and then we align around an answer and we move on. I call that a management system. I talk to my team and we talk about it at Assurion as well. You have to have, as a leader, a great management system. How do you get information? How do you give information? And how do you make decisions? And if you can align that cadence of management system with your calendar, you're not rushing. Everything's not a fire drill. There's a logical place where that dialogue will happen. It's predictable, you know it, and you can be prepared for it versus every meeting on your calendar is a fire drill from the last problem or every issue becomes a disruptor. And so we're pretty ruthless about that management system as a team, and everybody knows how to use it to their advantage.
What don't you know about? As you're speaking here, Dave, I say, well, he sounds like he's got his act really together. He knows what he's talking about.
You got to follow me around for a day, Robert. It sounds way better than it looks, I promise.
What are your big questions or dilemmas or conundrums that you're facing?
Yeah, I mean, a major factor for our business is life cycle of technology. I can't predict the future. I can't predict the viability or strength or durability of the next technology that comes out. So that's a worry. You always want to know, like, in the future, how are we going to do more? So I can't predict that, and I don't have a crystal ball that tells me more people will buy X device versus this device. This device will break more or less often. This device will be easy to repair or not easy to repair. So there's a whole, the future of technology and use examples. VR headsets, they're not commonplace yet. They're super expensive. People won't replace them when they break. A VR headset's $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. You can absolutely see where these will become more common. When the first iPhone came out, people were like, oh my gosh, and it took a minute and then it exploded. Well, let's just say VR headsets explode down the road. They're very, very expensive. They're going to have to be repaired versus replaced for a lot of people. Yeah. How do we get smart about that now? And while it's a small opportunity, I have to be thinking, and the team has to be thinking about, okay, what's around the next corner and are we prepared for it? So I don't know what those things will ultimately be. You can read a lot about it and try to learn a lot about it. I think the other one is, the state of the economy is a challenging aspect for every business and certainly retail. And, how is our workforce going to respond to things that happen in our country, the wage rates, the competition amongst opportunities, folks choosing to go to colleges or not, like all of those have long-term impacts on how we view our business, because our number one commodity and our number one investment is people that can do this work and do it really well with a smile on the face, take care of customers. And so I can't predict that. You can look at the trends, you can understand where some things are going, try to be ahead of it, but that's certainly something that I don't have the answer to, but my team and I talk about it regularly and we think about talent in that way. And so those are two areas: the future of technology, where it's going to go and how it impacts us, and then the future of the workforce and making sure that we're ahead of it.
The one thing I was thinking about, and that's a good answer, is when I go into, or a customer goes into a uBreak iFix store, it's a transaction. How do you transform that transaction, that transactional sale, into a relationship? I'll give you an example. The last time I went to uBreak iFix to have my computer keyboard installed, you mentioned earlier we turn screws. Well, the guy in the store said, you're missing a screw here. And he said, let me look over here, I think I have one, and putting my computer back together. And that little random, generous act of kindness transformed me from, let's say, a customer to a client. I just thought I would share that with you, but I wonder if you encourage people to do similar things in your training.
Absolutely, and this goes back to picking the right people. People that understand a lot about technology and it's their forte, it's what they geek out on, it's what they spend their time outside of work on. They love sharing knowledge. If you find the right ones, they love sharing knowledge with people that don't. And they also understand that there's a natural, I'm going to call it apprehension, between a customer that doesn't know a lot about technology asking about it. People don't want to be perceived as that they don't understand this thing that they've been carrying around in their pocket for years. No one wants to admit that, right? Our people understand that, and they meet the customer and they do it in a way where they can get their guard down and feel comfortable and make that experience great and offer them more and more services and a better interaction, because they understand that dynamic, and that's critical. I think about, like, how do you get people to come back? It starts with giving them a great experience and solving the problem that they asked you to solve, doing it at a fair price and being reasonable about it. And if something goes wrong, taking care of it quickly and solving that problem too. So that's job one. But then I think the subscription services are a great example.
Yeah.
If we can create a one-to-one relationship where a customer knows that everything in their house can be covered by us, then we can offer them access to all of our repair and all of those experiences. We provide support for those. You can call our call centers. If you don't understand how to do something, we'll help you. If you need us to come out to your home and repair something, if you need us to replace it, if you want to just upgrade it, like, there's a whole slew of access that you get as part of that subscription service, and it builds a relationship between us at the local level and a customer, because customers, they love retail support like this. They don't want to ship their stuff in a box. Yeah. We have some of our largest partners, your example earlier, Mario, people don't want to send their technology 2 weeks, 3 weeks away in a box. Someone's looking at all of their technology, they're waiting on parts, the communication's not really good. People like to know my computer is in that store, and at any point in time, if I need to go pick it up, I can get it. It's available to me. And so that face-to-face retail in your community, we're local next to you, matters a lot to people. And so I think, we're trying to capitalize on that. We're trying to make sure people understand we're your local community repair shop, and we're the best in the country at it.
I think one error you might be making is the difference between, I call it the great programmatic fallacy. So it's one thing for a CEO or the marketing team to come up with something like a subscription service. But I've been to uBreak iFix 2 or 3 times, and no one ever said anything to me about it. I didn't know it existed.
Yeah, it's fair, and it is something we manage. It's something we look at. It's a regular part of our operational cadence, is to evaluate, are our stores having that conversation? Are they offering? Are they selling? Are they making those relationships with customers? We do have some stores that don't do it, and quite honestly, it goes back to they're first really great at technology. Are they comfortable having that conversation or making the offer? And so we provide training to stores that aren't doing that well or are uncomfortable with it. And if you find the right person that's got that personality that is motivated to share knowledge and engage a customer, and they can repair, then you've got lightning in a bottle. And we have that in a lot of places, and we need to have that everywhere. It's a fair
All
point.
right. I think we've gotten a lot out of this interview. Mario, do you have any further questions?
Well, I had one last one. And if it's okay, I'm going to ask it. And it is regarding your executive team, right? So one of the things Robert and I see when we coach both CEOs and CEOs executive team specifically is sometimes there is a disconnect, right? So the disconnect, what Robert and I see, happens in two places. Number one, person doing the job is, maybe not a best fit for this specific job. And then second, the executive team is not actually the team. Individually, they do a phenomenal job. Super smart, very motivated. But I don't know how to say it in English, but it's like everyone, like horse with four legs, but each leg goes to its own direction.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about how you chose your executive team. That's kind of part one. And then part two, what advice would you give to a newly minted CEO just getting into the role? What to look out for in his or her executive team?
The first one, there's a deep bench of people at uBreak iFix when I got into the job. So there were folks that had lots of expertise and knowledge and just needed a path to be in an area of more influence. And so we accelerated those paths for the key people that we thought had the ability to do more and could have a bigger impact on the business. There's also a deep bench at Assuring that I was able to draw from. So people with decades of experience in the wireless industry and repair, logistics and retail. And then, I think the dynamic amongst that group is critical. And so anybody on my executive team I've met before and had a very, very solid hand in picking. And so I've always thought about the team dynamic as a critical part of it. But let's shift to the second question, because this is, I think, the most important. I don't allow my team, and they know this, it's second nature at this point. We don't make one-off decisions that have impacts across the function from one executive to me. That's just not how we do it. So if there's a decision that has to be made as a group that will impact more than one function, it is required that that conversation happens with all the right people and I can hear all sides of the debate. And we will debate it. And sometimes those debates get a little bit heated. What I love about them is they're open, they're honest, they're direct, they're transparent, and at the end of it, we're all aligned. There's nothing worse than making a decision with one individual on your team that has a disagreeing peer, and then the two of you go off to execute it, and me as the CEO, I think it's going to go work great, and there's still misalignment in the organization. That cannot happen. And so those types of decisions, they end up in a forum where we talk about it, we debate it, and at the end of it, we all still hug it out and love each other, and we work through those. And that debate actually creates more and more trust and more consistency in how we execute. Because without it, if everybody can just go to the CEO and get their thing done, what happens is the CEO is now managing individual functions. He's not managing the organization. And then those individuals aren't working across their peer group. So everything in execution falls apart. It always does, because someone does have a differing opinion and you never heard it. And you never got it flushed out, and you never got to the best solution. And so those debates can be uncomfortable, and people don't like them, but it is absolutely critical to building trust and building a real team where everybody knows they have a voice, and their voice is going to be heard, and sometimes we're not going to decide to do what they want to do, and that's okay. But what we're going to do is we're going to walk out of that decision, we're all going to be aligned, and we're going to put our best foot forward. If it doesn't work, if the decision was poor, we can reevaluate that and we can bring it back to that same forum and debate the merits of what happened. But what we can't do is walk out of a meeting and go, I'm not really in. That is unacceptable, and my team knows that, and I've been preaching it and operating that way for a long time, and I think it's super effective.
My last question, because you speak with a very high level of certainty. If I was to do a series of 360 feedback interviews with your people,
Yep.
what do you think I would hear? Because oftentimes CEOs have a very different perception of themselves than people in their group. Maybe that's an unfair question.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's fair. I would say I have gotten feedback over my career from when I was an Army officer to now, so 25 years now. I'm tall and I'm loud, And that can project a level of intensity that can make people feel like it's harder to challenge.
Yeah.
I would also say people think I'm extraordinarily fair and reasonable and willing to listen to any debate on a topic. I don't give directives as a first response to anything. I may be very directive if an issue has lingered or hasn't gotten moving fast enough, but it's certainly not my first.
I was coaching a guy who was the CEO of a European telephone company like Deutsche Telekom. He was like super smart. And when everyone would get finished talking, he would stone everyone into silence. And he learned a technique that he actually did with me sometimes. He would finish talking and then say, look, tell me how you disagree. And then he'd leave a space and he'd let people talk and things would start to bubble out.
Yep.
So it's just a thought. Well, I think you've given us a
No,
lot.
it's good. It's good.
I think we've gotten a lot out of this, and I think you've got to
Yeah.
share your message. So thank you very much.
So this concludes the CEO podcast with Mari and Robert. Our guest today was Dave Barbuto. Dave, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a very inspirational, very, very nice conversation. I hope you had a lovely conversation with me and Robert.
Yeah, it was great. I appreciate it. It's great to meet you both, and I learned a lot too, so thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, and until the next time.